U.S. is announcing a new $775 million military aid package for Ukraine as Russia's invasion nears its 6-month mark. This new package brings the total committed to the embattled nation to a whopping $10.6 billion. So how can we ensure accountability for how American taxpayer funds and weapons are used? Congressman Greg Steube sits on the House Foreign Affairs Committee, and he joins us now. Congressman, so great to have you here this morning. So you actually supported the war in Ukraine. You voted for funding for Ukraine for hundreds of millions of dollars. Now, this amount says 10 point whatever billion dollars. You say you haven't received even one report of accountability.
I voted for the first tranche, which was that $10.2 billion. The second tranche was $40 billion. We spent a total of $54 billion in Ukraine. I voted against that last funding amount because there was no guardrails as to how that money was going to be spent. Congress still hadn't gotten any information, and I sit on the Foreign Affairs Committee. Foreign Affairs members haven't been given information on, did the weapons that we transferred actually get into the Ukrainians' hands? Have they been utilized? Have they been spent? Do they need more? What is the status of all of this? Have the money gone to oligarchs in Ukraine? We don't know. The administration isn't answering any of our questions, and there was no guardrails in that last funding tranche of $40 billion, which, oh, by the way, is more than Customs Border Patrol, Border Protection, Coast Guard combined. We need to be focused on America first and not all of these other issues throughout the world.
Is this the Pentagon who's responsible for giving you this report?
It's the State Department and the Pentagon. They kind of go back and forth the way the Biden administration has done it, like the Afghanistan botched withdrawal. The State Department was actually in charge of that process. So the State Department is in charge of most of the funding in Ukraine, but some of it is military defense transfers. So it's partly Department of Defense, partly Department of State.
So if the Republicans take control of Congress, can you use the power of the purse to say we're going to withhold funding from, certain programs in the State Department or the Pentagon if you don't give us this report? Is that one way you can deal with it? How do you get the Pentagon and the State Department to do their job?
Well, not only is it the power of the purse that we'll have when we take the majority back, it's the power of oversight. Democrats in Congress aren't going to oversee Joe Biden's horrible administration. We will finally be a check and balance to the decisions that his administration is making, bringing in their officials, deposing them, having subpoena authority. That's where the real power is going to come when we take the majority back, to really get answers from this administration who's completely ignoring Republican calls for information.
Yeah, I don't think the American people signed up for a proxy war with Russia. And as they're suffering financially, so many families, this is just absolutely outrageous. It's a slap in the face. I'm going to move to another topic, which is the border. There's, as you know, a lot of problems. And you pointed out rightly that there's not enough funding for Border Patrol, and so much of it is going to places we don't know. Last week, a Good Samaritan discovered 70 pounds of cocaine that was washed up along the coastline in the Florida Keys. The Border Patrol agents, with support from the Monroe County Sheriff's Office, recovered the drugs, which have an estimated street value of over $1 million. As you know, we have a massive fentanyl problem. What's your reaction to this discovery and all the problems we're having with drugs as a result of the open border?
Yeah, we have had enough fentanyl come into the United States to kill 6 times the population of the United States, all under Joe Biden. The drugs that are coming across the border is absolutely astronomical because we have an open border. Over 3.1 million illegal crossings since Joe Biden has been president. There's only 2.1 million people that live in Miami-Dade County. That's more than all of the population of Miami-Dade County and another million on top of that. It's absolutely atrocious. We have an invasion at our southern border, yet we want to give this administration wants to give money to Ukraine for a proxy war. When Republicans get back in control, that's where the power of the purse is going to come in, where we can use the appropriations process to say, you know what, you can't spend any money at the Department of Homeland Security to now allow a legal immigrant to come into our country.
Yeah, I sure hope our leadership in the Republican Party does do that with the war in Ukraine. There was a lot of news and to the ramp up of this war, and now we're hearing nothing about the money. And as you said, it could have gone into the hands of some pretty corrupt oligarchs. So thank you so much for staying on this. The American people really do appreciate it, Congressman.
Thank you.
Okay, Pete.
Thank you, Rachel. Appreciate it. We begin some headlines with this. A Texas woman now fearing to leave her home after a potential botched kidnapping.